Viewers, you're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. Another provocation by Khalistani elements sitting in Canada. Just days before the anniversary of Operation Blue Star, a parade was taken out by Khalistani sympathizers in Brampton city of the Ontario province. A tableau depicting Indira Gandhi's assassination was part of this parade. A video of this tableau has since gone viral on social media. The video evoked a sharp reaction from the Congress party, which called for a quote universal condemnation. They even asked the External Affairs Minister to take this up officially with the Canadian authorities. Meanwhile, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar today slammed Canada for giving space to separatists and extremists, something India has been raising with them for a while. Earlier today, the Canadian High Commissioner to India tweeted that he was appalled by the incident and condemned the act. But is that enough? Time and again, we've seen Hindu temples and Indian consulates being vandalized, statues being defaced, Indian origin people being heckled in Canada by pro-Khalistanis with very little to no action against them. Why does the Trudeau government embolden such elements with no action? Are the Canadian authorities promoting terror and separatism for vote bank politics? We'll take that question to our guests in just a bit. First, take a look at what exactly happened. A 5-kilometer-long parade was taken out by Khalistani sympathizers on June 4 in Brampton. This was taken out 2 days before the Operation Blue Star anniversary. So this tableau depicted former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi's assassination with gory details hailing the act. It shows Indira Gandhi's idol with a blood-stained sari, which had K flags and a poster right behind the idol that said revenge. Canadian envoy to India, as I said, Cameron McKay, condemned the action, but only after a full day of online anger against this piece of news. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has issued a stern warning. He said first and foremost that there's a bigger issue when it comes to Canada. That issue is about space being given to extremists and separatists. Jaishankar slammed Canada for giving space to those advocating violence. He alleged that Canadian authorities are indulging in vote bank politics and even warned Canada that such incidents are not good for the relationship between the two countries. But this isn't the first time. Canada is a hub, and a known one at that, of Khalistanis who've always found shelter there due to political reasons. Even crimes of such elements go hardly acted upon. Here are some examples. So this is the Indira Gandhi assassination being depicted in a tableau that happened 4 days ago now. No action has been taken so far by any Canadian authority. Earlier this year in March, Indian High Commissioner's event was targeted in Surrey. Few others were also heckled by the K-mob. A case was registered, but the police is still looking for 3 suspects. Mind you, a lot of this is caught on camera. In February earlier this year, a Ram temple was defaced with anti-India graffiti and Mississauga. The authorities are still investigating the incident. In January earlier this year, again in Brampton, Gauri Shankar temple was defaced with pro-Khalistani graffiti. Even here, the Canadian authorities are still investigating the incident. Last year in July, Gandhi statue was vandalized in Ontario. Pro-K graffiti was sprayed on the statue. The case is still being investigated as a hate crime. We don't really quite know what has happened. Mind you, this is the same country that took away basic fundamental rights from its own citizens because they were protesting vaccine mandates while supporting farm laws blockades in India. It just goes on to show the politics, both national and international, of the Canadian government. So the big question we're debating today, with this K parade that is depicting Indira Gandhi's assassination, wanting to glorify it, exactly who is it catering to, and why is it that Canada doesn't act? Are they promoting terror now for votes?
And the bigger issue involved is really the space that Canada has continuously and frankly to us, we are at a loss to understand, other than the requirements of vote bank politics, why anybody would do this.
Let's go across to the guests who are joining us. Charu Pragya of the BJP will be with us. Sravanti Palwai of the Congress is with us. Ashok Shajjanhar is a former diplomat, and Dr. Tara Karta is former director, National Security Council Secretariat, also with us. Let me begin with the Congress representative, Palwai ji. I understand, of course, naturally that the Congress would be very upset, enraged, as would be any Indian, frankly. And I think it's been a day of outrage over this before even the Congress party reacted. Across party lines, people have reacted on it, and this is not something that any Indian can tolerate. An assassination is an assassination and a terror act, regardless of what the circumstances may be. But, you know, one of the questions that comes to mind is that is the Congress party also not guilty of emboldening or shielding or ignoring such elements and their growing emboldened, the growing bravado even in India?
The Congress has always stood very strong against extremism and terrorism. And they have taken, if you would see, if even today, if you're talking about the depiction of the tableau that happened in Canada, it happened because a Congress Prime Minister took a very strong stance against extremism, tried to handle it, and in fact, eliminated the key persons in it. So if you're looking at it, the Congress has always stood against terrorism. They have fought it. They have always they have always put up a very strong and ironclad hand to suppress any kind of extremism or terrorism. So today, what happened or what is happening right now is alarming and a scary part of the political scenario that we are seeing. And it's something that happened in India that is reflecting out there in Canada.
I didn't understand that exactly. What do you mean that what's happening in India is reflecting in Canada? Because this is not new for Canada.
No. What I mean to say, the assassination of Mrs. Indira Gandhi happened in India because the Operation Blue Star was undertaken by her on the 6th of June, 1984, to handle the Khalistani movement. And this was, you know, any religious place is a very holy shrine for all of us, irrespective of whichever religion we all follow. And taking a place like the Golden Temple in Amritsar as a hiding spot to hide, use arms, ammunition, everything at that point was something which was not acceptable to any Sikh in India either.
No, fair enough. I'm not going into the Operation Blue Star itself. I think that's a whole separate debate. You could argue some merits, demerits of how it was handled, etc. But I'm not going into that. What I'm saying, I want to understand from you is why do you think something like this has been allowed with such impunity in Canada?
You yourself, while speaking earlier, have said this is not the first time that something has happened in Canada. In fact, if we go back and see when the Kanishka Airlines crash had happened, the kingpin was found to be in Canada. That was where the entire the plane crash was strategized, and the crash actually took place later on. So this is not the first time. And when it came to Canada or when it came to any other country, if you have seen the pro-Khalistani movement that had taken up, we've had instances in Australia, we've had instances in London before the High Commission, and you know, both along with the government. As the major opposition, the Congress party has always taken the same stance.
No,
in terms
that's
of
what I was pointing to.
Is not acceptable.
Fair enough, but you know, that's what I was pointing to when I first asked you the question. That is the Congress recently not guilty of ignoring these elements, whether in India or overseas, in a bid for whatever your politics is? Because I remember how the Congress reacted when Canada was lecturing us on certain issues. Right? We need to show a little bit of greater non-partisanship when we're dealing with foreign countries, especially countries like Canada, which have a record of promoting Khalistani elements against us. But let me go across to Charu Pragya of the BJP also with us. What more action, Charu, can we hope for from the government of the day? Yes, the External Affairs Minister has reacted. We've seen some statements being made, for example, by the Canadian High Commissioner to India. But we need more. This is a former Prime Minister of India who was assassinated, and glorification of this act cannot be permitted, even outside of India.
Absolutely, Shivani, and I'm so glad that you're speaking so plainly about this, as is our External Affairs Minister. I don't know why Congress is mincing its words. Let's be very clear about one thing. It doesn't matter which party Mrs. Gandhi belonged to today. She was a former Prime Minister of our nation. Her assassination happened in this country, but after that, anybody who's been encouraging these Khalistani forces, separatists, extremists, anybody who wants to break up India needs to take responsibility of this event as much as those who organized it in Canada. There have been instances where, let me take examples. Captain Amrinder Singh ji multiple times said, do not change the leadership currently in Punjab because the new people you're getting in, Mr. Sidhu, for example, they are pro-Khalistani. They are not good for Punjab and they're not good for India's internal security. What did Congress
talked about Congress's links to separatists, to Khalistanis? Have they taken heed of this? So it is the same, whether the situation is in Canada, where you are backing extremists and Khalistanis for a little bit of a vote bank, or right here in India, where you're again backing the same kind of organizations and groups for a little bit of a vote bank. That needs to stop. There has to be a time when you have to put your country above your personal petty political interests.
No, I'll also point out that while there was, there was a lot of political fight over it during the farm law agitation, there were very clear signs at that time, Charu Pragya, that there was some Khalistani elements that entered into those protests. They were trying to garner attention because of those protests. The protest may not have started because of that, but there was clear infiltration. But when people used to talk about it, those people used to be projected as anti-farmer or anti-Sikhs. So what my point is that there are signs of this kind of activity even in India, and all of us need to speak in one voice, not only when it happens in Canada and when a brazen act like this happens in Canada, but even when small acts happen.
At that time, Shivani, if I may, Trudeau had made statements which were supportive of the Khalistanis, not understanding that India knows what it is doing. These are our internal matters. And when we had solid proof that there was funding coming from Khalistanis, there was infiltration of this protest by the Khalistanis, and we took a firm stand against it. At that time also, the Congress party sided with the people who are not in our country, who live in Canada, and who are actually working very hard to bring India to a point where they want rights to break out again in Punjab. They want a separate state.
Okay. I'll leave that aside for 1 minute. I just want to go across to some of our other experts as well. Ashok Sajanak, if I may begin with you. When the External Affairs Minister says that this is not going to be good for India-Canadian relationship, what do you think he means? What is the message he is sending? And what is it that India needs to do? Because, this has gone on for far too long. Recently, we've seen some action being taken after negotiations between India and Australia, because this activity was happening recently quite a bit in Australia too. Can we hope for a similar result in Canada? Or is Canada a lost hope?
No, I don't think it's a lost hope, Shivani. I think definitely the matter will be taken up with Canada also at all appropriate levels. We'll have the G20, we'll have the Prime Minister of Canada coming to India. And I'm sure at other levels also, this matter, I think the riot book will have to be read out to Canada that this is not acceptable. And, as the External Affairs Minister today said, Shivani, that is definitely not good for India-Canada relations. It's not good for Canada also. And I think they need to recognize that all this radicalization, all this, the militancy and extremism, that is very not helpful at all as far as law and security situation in Canada is concerned. And as far as the bilateral issues are concerned, yes, I'm sure it is going to be taken up by India in a very strong way. The manner in which we have taken it up with Australia, as you mentioned yourself, when Prime Minister Albanese was here, then it was taken up by Prime Minister Modi. And even when Prime Minister Modi traveled to Australia just now, he very clearly brought it out even in his press statement.
Yes.
Also, you would see as far as, what was done outside our High Commission in London.
London was concerned.
That issue has also been taken up very strongly with the local government there. And so I don't have the slightest doubt that wherever this happens, whether it is in Canada, whether it is in the United States or any other country, I'm sure it is going to be given the maximum focus and attention. And the last word, let me tell you here, India is a growing, not only an economy, but a confident, bold country in terms of safeguarding its interests. So I don't think it's going to let go of this matter just by making a statement of this nature.
Well, at least the last few instances, for example, what happened in London and in Australia, give us some sense that yes, this is a different India and it gets its voice heard, not just issue empty statements. Dr. Tarakarta, I want to understand from you, Canada is a little bit different though, right? It has a long history of sheltering khalistanis and people who are wanted in India as well. Their politics itself has become very embedded with this anti-India Khalistani movement. So I want to understand from you and for the benefit of our viewers, why is Canada like this, and why are even the mainstream elements of Canada not able to control these elements and their crimes, which they wouldn't otherwise allow?
See, a large majority of Sikhs are settled in Brampton, which is where this disgusting parade took place.
Yes.
Right? That's I think about half the total Sikh population is settled there. Second is the fact that they are an extremely, very, very active on the ground, in terms of coming together as a community. They get their politics going, which is why this new Democratic Party leader, I think his name is Jagmeet Singh, has become a power to reckon with. He's already been called a kingmaker and all in the last 2021 elections. So these Sikhs there are very, very, they stand together, and which is not a bad thing in itself. Our problem is that groups like the Sikhs for Justice, which has got links to the Jamaat-e-Islami, it's got links to Pakistan, of course, which we know, and a bunch, the most, what shall I say, it is a group which I think we should move to start calling it as a terror group. Because these people, they organized a referendum. Last year, I think they brought out a map calling for these are the cities which are a large thing. Parts of Rajasthan, parts of Uttar Pradesh, all part of Khalistan. They brought this map out. How can you keep quiet? It's not just the Canada government. We need to act against this group and bring out its linkages with various organizations which are very, funded very questionably.
No,
So
India
that
in
is
itself is
one
doing
piece.
that. But what do you do to make Canada wake up to this? Because surely even they can see that this is glorification of violence against a head of state.
I think, in this case, as Ambassador Sajjan has said, I think we're going to see some very strong reactions from India. There is no two ways on that. It is a credit to the BJP that it's going to take up this very, very, very strongly, regardless of which party is involved. It's a former Prime Minister, and that's that. But, I would differ slightly from what was said earlier, is that the reason why Australia has taken up this issue so strongly is partly because of the Indo-Pacific initiative, that kind of a construct where Australia is very much a part of that. Canada is not. And Canada, as you said, you saw the Kanishka, the trial. What was that? You had the Canadian Security Services destroyed hundreds of hours of tapes because they didn't want to reveal what their sources were. The guy who got killed I think it was last year, who was free from the Kanishka bombing, he was a respected member of the Sikh society till he was 70. That is what Canada is about. But the worst bombing in history. And what happened? So honestly, I don't expect a lot from Canada. I hope they prove me wrong. I hope they do something about this. But this is, as you said correctly, this is what we've seen in the past.
So maybe this sounds a little extreme. Dr. Tarakarta and Ashok Sajjan both can come in before I go back to our political representatives. Is it not time for us to reevaluate our relationship with Canada? Why is it so important to us to take these slides from them on a routine basis, non-cooperation on acting on such elements, protecting them, emboldening them? In fact, the entire Khalistani movement today is centered in Canada. So why is it that we don't re-look at this relationship? I don't know, demote this relationship a little bit? Today's India is a little bit different. I know there are some factors involved of population, etc. But surely this cannot be tolerated by India. Dr. Tarakarta, why don't you go first? And then Ashok Sajjanhar.
See, the thing is, yeah, you can turn around and, take up the issue with the Canadian ambassador here, who, as you said, has already come out with a statement against this particular incident at least. But see, it's not all Sikhs in Canada who are Khalistanis. So we need to also keep in mind that those people majority of them are, just like pro-India, they're they take a lot of pride in our country. So in that, you have to take a very careful, median between these two, between what the Canadian government does or does not do, and what the Sikhs in Canada feel. I mean, if there are issues there, we need to deal with them there. And we need the freedom to do that. Okay. And the understanding of what are those issues. And like I said, deal with the source. Deal with the source from where these negative things are coming, which is organizations like this. It's not just Sikhs for Justice, there are others also.
Yes.
Can we move
So can we arm twist, if we have to, Canadian authorities into giving us more on those elements, those bodies, those organizations, because obviously they take shelter overseas because India has limited jurisdiction there. Ashok Sajjanhar, what do you think? How can we get this done from a country that is clearly not cooperative on this issue? They have their own domestic politics to take care of here.
Yeah, you're right. But, responding to the question that you, posed earlier, whether, India should be relooking at the relationship with Canada. Let me assure you, knowing a little bit about how the Ministry of External Affairs works and how foreign policy is thought about, and particularly as far as the current government is concerned, I think that this re-evaluation has already started. The strong words that Dr. Jaishankar used at the press conference today, I don't think these are used lightly by anyone. You would see that these sort of words have never been used in the case of any other government. Whether it is the United Kingdom, it's Australia, no. I think it is in the case of Canada, it has been used that it is going to have a very damaging impact on our bilateral relations. So I think this rethinking, but it's not only going to be there. I think there are going to be parallel processes that are going to take place. And definitely, as far as what the Canadian High Commissioner here says, he has no choice, but that doesn't really satisfy us.
No, absolutely. Those are just words which are not going to really assuage what India feels today because of this tableau. This is absolutely grotesque tableau. And it has happened. And if it wasn't for social media outrage, I don't think anybody in Canada would have even batted an eyelid. And I'm sorry, it reflects on the community there as well. If you don't act, if the community doesn't pressurize these elements in Canada to not do this, it reflects on them. So whether they're for them or not, it's a separate issue. But I have limited time. Let me go across to our political panelists once more time. Charu Pragya, are you willing to walk the talk on this? To ensure
Shivani,
that this is not repeated in Canada?
Absolutely. I think India is a country which knows its place in the world now. We are very straightforward and we mean what we say and we do what we say. So I think there has to be no doubt in anybody's mind that the government of India is going to take this up very seriously. I just wanted to take a minute to talk about what you said about the community living in Canada as well. You're absolutely right. Indians who are living in Canada, Sikhs who are living in Canada, also need to take onus and responsibility of what is happening around them a little bit, because at the time of the farmer protests, I remember there were a lot of truckers on the streets of Canada with the flag of India. I still remember that visual. So if there is political patronage of one section of society which is Khalistani, it needs to be done away with, and the government of Canada needs to take action against those people.
Right. No, understood. Ms. Pelwai, I want a final reaction from you. What is it that you want the government to do? Because this is not just about who's in power today. This is about India as a country. And surely all political parties must come together when it's international relationships like these. It shouldn't matter, what suits you today because you're in opposition.
Yes, definitely. If you would see the statements made by our leaders on either social platform or outside, or irrespective of the party, We have appreciated the approach taken by the government. We are with the government in this because when it comes to India, no external force can ever damage the country or its citizens. We stand with the truth, we stand with what is right, and we are willing to stand and fight it out even on an international forum. That is exactly what a party states, and it is not just a one-off incident that we are talking about. Whatever is in the larger interest of the country, our party has always stood by it. We have always given a lot of importance to the external relationships that we have with other countries.
Yeah, but we shouldn't aggravate some of these feelings and sentiments overseas. I'm reminded of this trip that I think Rahul Gandhi made to London where he pointed to a Sikh person and said that you are being made a second-class person in India. Now, that's obviously factually incorrect. It's statements like these, especially made overseas, which aggravate sentiments like these against India. Well, it emboldens them.
No such incident has come to our notice where Rahul Gandhi ji himself is a very matured and a person who speaks out his heart. Undoubtedly, he is a kind of person who calls spade a spade. But I do not agree that he has tried to incite someone into some kind of communal or any kind of political drama around whatever comments he has made. No, okay. I do not agree to that. And we stand by what we said.
Okay, let's hope that everybody can be together on this and show external forces that all parties are together. Yes, Charu Pragya, 20 seconds, please.
Yeah, very quickly. So, Mr. Gandhi needs to be reminded that he not just supports other countries when they make statements against India. He is also one who goes to another country and says other countries are not interfering enough in Indian democracy. So I'm sorry, Congress also needs to do some introspection today. It's very easy to say that Mrs. Gandhi was from our party.
I totally oppose.
No, this is factual. This is 100%.
No, this is not factual.
All of this is on public record.
This is all he has said.
100% on public record. Do you not remember Mr. Gandhi saying that very good Mr. Trudeau, thank you for interfering in India, and when he was in London,
no, please do not try to put words into his mouth.
All right, that's a separate issue. We've discussed that enough when he went to London and also recently when he was in the US. I do thank all of our guests for joining us. Let's hope Canada is actually sent that message and taught a lesson that this cannot be tolerated anymore. Moving on, the storm over hijab is now back in the country. An FIR has been registered against a school called Ganga Jamuna School in Damo district of Madhya Pradesh for allegedly forcing female students to wear hijab. What has come to light is that there was a poster which went viral on social media which showed that there were images of Hindu and Jain girls studying in these schools too that were wearing hijab, and we've blurred those faces for obvious reasons. Not only this, the school is now also under scanner for using a heavily distorted map of India in their logo. Madhya Pradesh government has assured strict action against the school authorities. Let me also break down what has happened so far in this case. So an FIR has been registered by the police against the school management. The cops have also recorded statement of 2 female students at least so far. But the statement of the school management is yet to be recorded by them. Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan has ordered a high-level probe into the matter. A special instruction has also been given to probe other educational institutions across the state and check if any similar activities are taking place. Now, the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights has also taken cognizance and it has made even graver allegations. It has said that female Hindu students in the school were being forced to wear hijab. The students were allegedly given Islamic education by the teachers. Attempts were also made to convert the students is one of the allegations, and that, as I mentioned, a distorted map of India was being used by the authorities as a school logo and for business purposes. The debate that we're having is pretty straightforward. Whether it's an Islamic school or otherwise a minority institution or not, is it justified to ask non-Muslim students to wear hijab?
जैसे बयान होते जाएंगे, नाम सामने आते जाएंगे, नाम बढ़ते भी जाएंगे। अब जैसे साधारण सी बात है, अभी स्कूल मैनेजमेंट के खिलाफ कायम हुई है।
अगर इस ढंग का प्रयत्न किया जाता है तो हम किसी कीमत पर बर्दाश्त नहीं करेंगे।
अब एक स्कूल के अंदर एक मस्जिद का रास्ता है, गोपनीय रास्ता, हमने उस मामले में भी इन्वेस्टिगेशन करने के लिए पुलिस को लिखा है।
Let me go across to the guest joining us. Rashmi Sawant is an activist, has been a student activist. Aska Khan is also an activist joining us on the show. Atikur Rahman is an Islamic scholar. So Atikur Rahman, let me begin with you. It looks like this could well be a small minority institutions. I'm not sure, very clear about its affiliations to the state board or, whether it gets any grants or funds by the state government. But in any case, whether you are a minority institution too, is it justified to have even non-Muslim female students wear a hijab?
No, not at all, Shivani. Basically, your question is very much pertinent, that if the non-Muslim girls are made to wear forcibly a hijab, meanwhile, it is not a hijab which was come into the forefront as the pictures were shown. It is just a scarf. And
no, it's not.
What I feel is this story is a week-long story. Since 7-8 days, it went into a lull, nobody talked about it. And now at that particular time, Shivani, mind you, the education secretary of the MP government had given a clean chit to the school that it's not a hijab, it's a scarf, and all students equally wear it since the beginning of their whatever inception
But
is.
why?
Now after
why wear a scarf? No, one second. What is the purpose of the scarf? No, one second. Atikur Rahman, what is the purpose of the scarf?
Why wear a scarf?
Yeah.
Yes, what is the purpose? Tell me, what is the purpose? Is a hindrance to education?
No, I'm not getting into that. Why would all girls wear a scarf? How is it different? You can call it a scarf. How is it different to the purpose of a hijab?
It's a school uniform, Shivani.
Which school uniform, Atikur Rahman, in MP? In MP will have scarf. This is a hot state that is hot, boiling most of the year.
It is in India. MP is a part of India.
Yeah, so it's a hot weather country and a hot weather state. Exactly which hot weather country has people wearing scarf?
Is it forcible? Is it forcible?
That obviously the investigation will tell us.
The question, is it forcible? That's it. After 7 days, intimidation is done. All Hindutva forces are there in the school now, and they are counting everything. From a pin to everything, they will be counting and blaming that since it's a Muslim school, it should be barred from it.
No, I don't think they're asking for the school to be barred, or anybody should ask for that. That's an illogical demand. But the right question to ask here is this: whether this is a hijab or not, and even if it's a scarf, why are these girls wearing this scarf? That is not normal school uniform anywhere. And after this poster went viral, this poster was taken down, that much even I know. I want to go across very quickly to the NCPCR head, Priyank Karangu, who's joining us, because he's raised some massive allegations against the school. So, Mr. Karangu, I want to understand from you. The school authorities and others are saying that, there is actually nothing wrong with this because this was just a scarf and all girls are wearing scarf. So why is it that you believe that this was not just not a scarf but a hijab, and also that girls were forcibly being made to wear this?
देखिए, हमको बच्चों ने बातचीत में ये बताया है, जो हमारे स्टेट कमीशन के मेंबर्स ने वहाँ इंक्वायरी की है कि उनको हिजाब के बिना क्लास में नहीं आने दिया जाता था।
Okay.
और स्कार्फ और हिजाब का अंतर देश की जनता समझती है। ये गुमराह करने के लिए स्कार्फ बोलिए, रुमाल बोलिए, दुपट्टा बोलिए, ये चलेगा नहीं। कम से कम एनसीपीसीआर को तो गुमराह नहीं किया जा सकता। हिजाब होता है, सुप्रीम कोर्ट तक का वर्डिक्ट है हिजाब, तो हम समझते हैं हिजाब क्या होता है। सारे बच्चों के हिजाब में फोटोग्राफ्स हैं, एडमिशन रजिस्टर में से फोटोग्राफ्स हमने रिट्रीव किए हैं, हिंदू लड़कियों के फोटो। स्कूल के अंदर मस्जिद जाने का एक गुप्त दरवाजा हमारे स्टेट कमीशन के मेंबर्स को मिला है।
इसका क्या मतलब है? इसको आप थोड़ा सा एक्सप्लेन कर सकते हैं कि गुप्त दरवाजा क्यों है और क्या स्टूडेंट्स पे कोई इम्पैक्ट था?
ने वहाँ पाया, हमारे स्टेट कमीशन के मेंबर्स ने वहां पाया कि एक गोपनीय दरवाजा है जो मस्जिद की तरफ तक जाता है। अब इसको फर्दर पुलिस को इन्वेस्टिगेट करना चाहिए। भारत का नक्शा जिससे छेड़छाड़ की गई, हमको ये बात बहुत दिन से मालूम है, जो अलगाववादी ताकतें भारत में काम कर रही हैं वो देश के पूर्वी हिस्से को, पश्चिम बंगाल और नॉर्थ ईस्ट के हिस्से को चिकन नेक से काट देना चाहती है। ठीक वही नक्शा इस स्कूल का लोगो है। तो अलगाववादी ताकतें जिस चीज को उकसा रही हैं उसी को इस स्कूल के लोगों के माध्यम से बच्चों तक संप्रेषित किया जा रहा है। इस्लाम में जब किसी को कन्वर्ट किया जाता है तो उस प्रक्रिया में उसको कलमा पढ़वाया जाता है। यहाँ पे हमने हिंदू लड़कियों के वीडियो देखे हैं जिनको कलमा कंठस्थ याद है। तो ये कन्वर्जन नहीं करवा रहा तो और क्या करवा रहा है?
ओके, मैं आपसे यही सवाल पूछने वाली थी। आपने ये एलिगेशन लगाया है स्कूल के खिलाफ कि यहाँ पे लड़कियों को जबरदस्ती इस्लामिक एजुकेशन दी जा रही थी और कन्वर्ट करने की कोशिश की जा रही थी। आप कह रहे हैं कि आपको इसका एविडेंस मिला है?
भाई, इस्लाम में कन्वर्ट होने की जो धार्मिक प्रक्रिया है उसमें कलमा ही पढ़ाया जाता है और वहाँ के बच्चों को कलमा कंठस्थ याद है। और कैसे कन्वर्ट कीजिएगा? ये कन्वर्ट करने के लिए बच्चों को ग्रूम कर रहा था। ये अपराध है बड़ा और इसमें धर्म स्वातंत्र अधिनियम के तहत मुकदमा दर्ज होना चाहिए। भारत के नक्शे में से देश के पूर्वी भाग को काट के दिखाना जो इस्लामिक अलगाववादियों का बहुत पुराना षड्यंत्र है, जिस पर देश में कई आंदोलन हुए और सरकार ने कई बार अपनी प्रतिबद्धता दिखाई है, उस हिस्से को काट के नक्शा बनाना और बच्चों को सिखाना, डार्विन के सिद्धांत के विपरीत मनुष्य की उत्पत्ति का सिद्धांत बच्चों को सिखाना, बच्चे जो मध्य प्रदेश के हैं, दमोह के हैं, जहाँ मातृभाषा हिंदी है, वहाँ मातृभाषा के रूप में उनको उर्दू पढ़ाना, ये सब अपराध है। और इसके लिए अपराधियों के खिलाफ अपराधियों की तरह कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए।
बिल्कुल। प्रियंक जी, मैं एक सवाल आपसे पूछना चाहती हूँ, क्योंकि कुछ लोग ये पूछेंगे कि यहाँ पे ये बच्चे अपनी मर्जी से पढ़ रही होंगी या उनके परिवार की इजाजत से पढ़ रही होंगी, तो अगर ये माइनॉरिटी इंस्टीट्यूशन है तो वहाँ पे क्या इनको इस्लामिक एजुकेशन नहीं दी जा सकती या उर्दू नहीं पढ़ाई जा सकती?
नहीं, बिल्कुल नहीं दी जा सकती इस्लामिक एजुकेशन, क्योंकि भारत के संविधान का अनुच्छेद 28(3) स्पष्ट करता है कि किसी भी बच्चे को उसके धर्म के अलावा किसी अन्य धर्म की शिक्षा देने के लिए उसके माता पिता से सहमति लेनी होगी। हमको अपनी जांच में एक भी माता पिता ने आकर ये नहीं बोला कि इस्लामिक शिक्षा देने के लिए उन्होंने अपने बच्चों को स्कूल को सहमति प्रदान की है। तो ये तो सीधा सीधा मामला है कि बच्चों को स्कूल के नाम पे बुला के और धर्मांतरित करने के लिए ग्रूम किया जा रहा था।
जी, Priyanka Nangu, thanks a lot for speaking to us. You've given us some clarity on what you have found. Let me go back across to some of our guests joining us. Sriraj Nair is a member of the VHP also with us. But Rashmi, let me speak to you first. You've heard what Priyanka Nangu has said, and I think this whole thing has come into light because of this poster. I don't know how long it was going on for. And actually it brings into spotlight minority institutions themselves, because a lot of non-Christian students go to Christian schools, a lot of non-Muslim students go to Muslim schools. And if this is what is happening in the name of minority institutions, it's a problem.
You're right. It's a huge problem. And you can see very apparent signs on how this is problematic, because you can also see that the school is promoting an anti-Hindu, an anti-Bharat narrative, an anti-India narrative by putting a logo that, you know, chops off lands from the country, and then that's the logo. So you can imagine the extent to which they must be going in order to brainwash little kids. And I think one of the panelists was mentioning choice. These are minor students. Minors in India, or minors for that matter anywhere in the world, do not have a choice. They need to be, you know, a permission has to be granted by their parents for something else to be preached or for something to be subscribed to. You cannot allocate things like choice to minor students.
They do not watch. This is a serious crime. Coming out of from school.
Oh, you stop shouting. Stop shouting. Hindu girls are being... You're being Hindu-phobic here. We're talking about Hindu girls here. I'm not talking about Muslim girls. You're being Hindu-phobic. You're creating... You're in the name of Islamophobia, you are actively discrediting... You are discrediting an active violation of human rights of little children. People like you are actively saying things like a hijab is not a hijab. That Kashmir is not a part of India. You are people who say Kashmir is not a part of India.
Okay, 1 second.
You are people have never.
You're personally attacking people here.
No, 1 second. 1 second. Can I just come in? I want all of you to get your turn, but let's not speak over each other. Atikur Rahman, you had your turn. You made your points. Please allow others to speak. And please, one second. I am not interested in being, browbeaten by words like Islamophobia thrown at me or at this debate. That is not given. That is not done. We are discussing a legitimate story here. There is a poster which had Hindu girls wearing what was very clearly hijab. All girls were wearing it. It is not a scarf. Please. And even if it is a scarf, Atikur Rahman ji, even if it is a scarf, you don't prejudge that situation, please. You don't prejudge that situation, please. There is an allegation. Let that allegation be investigated.
Allegations. You're trying to browbeat people here. Please do not talk over me. My turn.
1 second. Can I just allow Rashmi? Two of our guests are waiting. Rashmi, just finish what you were saying, then I'll go across to our other guests. Atikur ji, you will get your opportunity, but please do not level allegations like being Islamophobic and Manuvadi and Hindutvavadi. That's not debating.
No, I will do what I want, Shivani.
Yeah, Rashmi Sawant.
Atikur Rahman has
Don't make that against other guests.
Demonstrated, he has rightfully demonstrated what the issue is. There is an active, disproportionate misinformation that is being spread to actively discourage investigation into an active and into a very serious, allegation. I think this deserves to be investigated, and the fact that these Hindu girls have a separate photo in their admission forms compared to what came out later on clearly says that these minor girls are going through something that is abnormal without consent of their parents. And
yes, so the NCPCR chief has just told us, let me take that to Aska Khan also, that there are even admission pictures where they were wearing hijab, that they could read or recite the kalma. Now these are allegations that have been made by him. Obviously he wants the police to investigate it. Just purely speaking about the hijab issue, I just want to understand from you, is it okay, even if in a school, the school encourages Muslim girls to wear hijab, to also make non-Muslim girls wear a hijab? Is that not wrong?
Now, Ms. Shivani, you need to focus on the situation which is in Delhi. A very top-notch school, Convent of Jesus and Mary School in CJM, in Connaught Place, has its mass, okay? And then the fathers and the nurse and the nuns comes to the class and offer holy water, and sometimes when the Holy Communion is conducted. So are the Hindu girls or the Catholic schools, are they debarred? No. Why? Because that's a part of the institution. That is how that has been indoctrinated. Now, second thing is, when there's something is a part of the institution, I think Ms. Sawant has to introspect before putting allegations on Mr. Atikur Rahman or as a community, on my community.
Nobody has talked about the community.
Oh, wow, we're not talking about
Nobody has talked about the community.
About your community at all. We are talking about our girls.
Nobody has talked about the community. We are only talking about this school, nobody else. Yes, Rashmi, let her finish. Rashmi, let her finish.
Highly. The school, what does the school has done? It has its own set of rules and principles which is being followed. Okay. Now, the question I think which the only point which I discourage and which I find it's not okay is the distortion of the India's map. It includes all 30 states, yes, but however, this particular thing, as you know, in Delhi, in the places like Okhla, there is a school, Hatijatul Khubra, okay, and there are many non-Muslim girls attending it, still wearing the hijab. That has no problem. It is just simply the polarization.
Okay, no, so that's actually the larger question I'm asking. If that is okay, and that's the question I asked Rashmi, that yes, minority institutions have certain rights, but is it not a problem if they force a certain religious ideology?
Shivani, you really need to do something for yourself.
Shivani, if I may.
For something for myself? What is that?
Yes. It means that you are misinterpreting my statement. You did not let me complete my statement.
No, so
What
I
I'm
understood
saying-
what you're saying. You're saying minority institutions have their own set of rules, right? That's
now,
what you're
the
saying?
second point is that let's not forget it. This particular institution is in the state of Madhya Pradesh.
Right.
What is in the state of Madhya Pradesh? So it is the BJP rule. It is the
Yes.
coming from the roots of RSS, and it is from that segment which is against the religion of Islam, right? And they truly do something which is about polarization, which is prejudice, which is discrimination.
No, I think
Okay?
it can also be argued that it's prejudice to make non-Muslim girls take Islamic education and wear the hijab inside a school. I think that is also prejudice. But
Okay,
in any
now,
case,
if
I'm
you're
going to,
saying-
one second, Aska, one second, I got your point. Aska, I got your point. Now let me go across to my other guest. The other situation is, let me just get to the root of this point now. Yes, saying that this school has its own rules and therefore it is okay even if non-Muslim students are getting Islamic education or wearing the hijab. Similarly, as I asked Mr. Priyank Kanangu also, there are Christian minority institutions where there is, for example, some sort of religious, you can say prayers or some sort of religious education that is given. Now you look at the other situation. In this case, it's a minority institution, so it's okay even if non-Muslim students have to go through it. But in other institutions, like it happened in Karnataka recently, it was a government institution, but girls were insisting that they should get to wear hijab. So there they were saying, no, the school rule should allow us to wear hijab. Here you are saying that because it's a minority institution, everyone should wear hijab. In fact, I have a case now from Srinagar, where the school has now said that don't wear the abaya inside the school premises or the classrooms. The girls are protesting there. So Sriraj Nair, my point here is, in what is a government institution, quote unquote secular, you insist you will wear hijab. In a minority institution, you will turn that argument and say everyone will wear hijab because this is a minority institution. So अड्बी मेरी पड्बी मेरी हो गई ना ये तो. फिर आप सेक्युलर स्कूल में क्यों बोल रहे हैं कि हिजाब अलाउ कीजिए? वहां पे फिर यूनिफॉर्म पहनिए.
Shivani ji, first of all, we all know the condition and the plight of the Muslims in this country. Their own leaders, while campaigning for elections, they say Muslims are facing the worst conditions in the country. They are behind everybody. They have the maximum number of school dropouts. They have the maximum number of people living under the poverty line. They have the maximum number of people who are college dropouts. They have the maximum people who are unemployed. They have so much grave issues in the community, and the community is living under the worst condition. And why are they? And these Muslims, they are themselves converts. Third generation, fourth generation converts. And they are living a pathetic life. And rather than addressing their own issues, why are they doing this cheap stunts? The government of Madhya Pradesh should immediately take cognizance and ensure the trustees of the school, so-called minority education, they are immediately arrested. These people themselves lead a backward life, a third-grade life, and they want others also to live their life.
No, Mr. Nair, there's no need to make comments like these. Stay on the subject, speak on the subject.
This is purely Stockholm syndrome.
Speak of hijab issue alone.
They are suffering and they want others to suffer. Rather than reconverting to their ancestors' faith and leading a decent life, a life the way Hindus are living in this country, a great life,
that's not the
life,
issue here.
And they want
no, that's not the issue. I want to discuss the issue about school rules now. Let me go across to Atikur Rahman and Rashmi Sawant one more time. Can I just have both of them on the screen, please? Atikur Rahman and Rashmi Sawant. Atikur Rahman, I just told Ashka the fundamental issue I have here. In a minority institution, non-Muslims should also get Muslim education or Christian education and even wear a uniform that institution prefers. But in a government institution, people will say that no, my hijab should be allowed. Is that not a double standard then?
Yeah, you are correct. You know, your argument is very much logical, Shivani, and that is why we should await the Supreme Court order related to hijab, which is pending. Furthermore, all states, the education is a state subject. Let all the school guidelines be very much clear. Herein we have heard the NCPCR, chief speaking the language of NIA and RSS. Either he is, very much communal in his argument, or he is investigating a thing. Has the NCPCR a guideline in a school that all schools will be equally treating their children and no religious guidelines or no religious prayers will be there?
No, that's not what he said. I asked him exactly this question. So he said you have to take the permission of the guardians of the student. That's what happens in several Christian institutions. That's why I asked him this question. If that is the case in this school, then it's okay. Then it's the responsibility of the parents, because I understand the parents know that this is a Muslim school or this has Muslim education and they're sending their girls there. So we need to know. I'm just saying, don't prejudge this investigation, because you almost made it seem like this is some conspiracy. It's not. Please, it's not. But I have a final 30 seconds left.
Let me come in, please.
Sir, I have 10 seconds only, please.
If I may.
10 seconds. After that, Rashmi Sawant.
If I may.
Shivani, I was on day one when this controversy erupted. I was on day one on a platform wherein the school education secretary gave a clean chit to the school saying that there is no compulsion. Now intimidation will be taking place because the state government is a BJP government.
Okay, unfortunately I've run out of time.
Anti-Islam, anti-Muslims.
All right, I've run out of time. Let's see what happens as far as this investigation is concerned. I do thank all of our guests for joining us. Time for a very short break. On the other side, we'll get you some more updates from across the world.
फास्ट ट्रैक में भी 3 या 6 महीने लगते हैं फास्ट ट्रैक में चलाने के बाद भी। पर मैं ये मानना कि कुश्ती बहुत बुरे दौर से में है आज के टाइम में, और लगभग 4-5 महीने हो चुके हैं इस पहलवानों के प्रोटेस्ट को। तो जल्दी ही इसका कोई रास्ता निकलना चाहिए, और जूनियर बच्चे, जो सब जूनियर बच्चे हैं, वो भी बड़े एक कंफ्यूजन है और एक मानसिक तौर पे बड़े परेशान है सभी, क्योंकि कोई नेशनल नहीं, कुछ भी नहीं, सीधी ट्रायल और डायरेक्ट ट्रायल हो रही है पहलवानों की। तो उसमें थोड़ा कंफ्यूजन होता है, पर जो भी है कि ये जल्दी से जल्दी इसका हल निकलना चाहिए, और पहलवानों को भी, क्योंकि ये जो पहलवान हैं ये भी अब एशियन गेम्स अगले साल ओलंपिक है, तो इनको भी तैयारी करनी होगी शायद।
तो इनका जो मेन डिमांड है पहलवानों की वो ये है कि बृजभूषण शरण की गिरफ्तारी हो जाए। उनका मानना ये है कि अभी 6 या 7 महिला पहलवान सामने आ चुके हैं, उन्होंने कंप्लेंट रजिस्टर कर दी है, उनके खिलाफ जो शोषण हुआ था उसके बारे में डिटेल्ड पुलिस के साथ उन्होंने कंप्लेंट और FIR दर्ज की है। इसके बावजूद अगर बृजभूषण शरण की गिरफ्तारी नहीं हो रही है तो फिर कोई बड़ा आदमी उसको प्रोटेक्ट कर रहा है। क्या राजनीतिक कारण की वजह से उसको प्रोटेक्ट किया जा रहा है?
देखो, ये तो पुलिस FIR दर्ज हो चुकी है, 1 महीना हो चुका है, उस पर पुलिस अपनी इन्वेस्टिगेशन कर रही है। कहीं कुछ पीछे बताया था कि कोई भाई नाबालिग लड़की भी है, और ये भी सुनने में आया कि उसने अपना जो है वो केस वापस ले लिया है। तो ये तो पूरे अब अंदर की बातें हैं, क्या सच है क्या झूठ है वो तो नहीं बता सकते, पर पुलिस अपनी जांच कर रही है। और जहां तक मेरे को लगता है कि अगर पुलिस जो कुछ काम कर रही है, जो क्योंकि कानून के दायरे से बाहर कोई नहीं आता, और खासकर कोई पुलिस में होता है तो वो अपने कानून के दायरे में जरूर रहता है। कोई गिरफ्तार करने की बात होगी तो गिरफ्तार भी करेगी, पर यही है कि किसी ने कुछ गलत किया है तो वो जांच होनी चाहिए और सजा मिलनी चाहिए, दोषी को भी जांच होनी चाहिए कि जो भी प्रकरण हुआ है, जो भी ये भी इतना बड़ा ये पूरे देश में और पूरी दुनिया में एक खराब माहौल बना खिलाड़ियों कुश्ती को लेके, तो ये बड़ा दुखदायी है।
ओके, योगेश्वर दत्त, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए। We'll see how this story plays out till the 15th. I'm now opening this up to our panelists. Pratik Shom is spokesperson of the JJP, which is an ally of the BJP in Haryana. Onika Mehrotra is spokesperson of the Congress Party. A.B. Subbaiah is former Indian hockey player and Arjuna awardee. Ranjit Bajaj, ex-chairman of the Committee of Administrators of Indian Football. And Ashwini Nachappa, former athlete, is also joining us. Pratik Shom, as an ally, more than in fact an ally of the BJP, the fact is that there is pressure on your party as well, because these wrestlers, they hail from Haryana, they're the pride of Haryana, the pride of India. The fact that it's been a month and a half since these protests started, we've had a second 6-hour-long meeting between the sports minister and the protesting wrestlers. Why should they believe, and why should the people who are watching this saga unfold believe that by the 15th there will be some resolution? After all, it hasn't resolved in the last month and a half.
Yes. So, Zaka, there are three aspects to this whole controversy. One is the allegation part, which has already culminated into 2 FIRs. Another aspect is the investigation, in which if Delhi police will find any evidence, they will certainly file a charge sheet. Third aspect is the prosecution part, which will happen in the fast track court as mandated under our constitution, and court will pronounce him guilty or may convict him basis on the trial and the charge sheet filed by the Delhi police along with evidences. See, now replying to your question, it is good that the belief in central government has been restored by that what happened in Supreme Court. It was central government through Solicitor General who submitted that they are willing and ready to do this FIR, and before Honorable Supreme Court could pass any directions, it was already submitted by Solicitor General that on same day both the FIR will be. Our stand since the beginning is that anything which has to happen, which should happen in a legal framework, in a constitutional framework. Whatever the
let me ask Monica Mehrotra, the fact that this has been going on for a month and a half, there are 2 sets of FIRs that have been filed. The wrestlers have given their statements to the Delhi police, and also they've gone and recorded statements from Brijbhushan Sharan and people close to him. The police's contention by way of sources is if there was any material that warranted arrest, and particularly because one of the accusers happens to be a minor, then he would have been arrested by now. The fact that he's not been arrested is indicative that there isn't material enough to show that Brijbhushan Sharan's arrest is warranted. That is what Delhi police sources are claiming.
You think so? Are we all that blind? Let's not get into technicalities, but let me tell you, Zaka, it has been absolutely sinful. It's been sinful and arrogant, or I would say a meek behavior of the tongue-tied sports minister towards the dignity and pride of these wrestlers. I mean, look at the way they've got the laurel for this country. If they are saying something, why is the government so deaf? Why didn't they hear them? It took them so long. A, they did the protest earlier on a promise that, okay, things will be sorted out and we'll look into it. Nothing happened. Mere lip service. And then they resumed their protest for good 35-40 days, and look how they were treated. They were dragged. They were assaulted by the police personals. Look at the way the stuff was thrown around. Is this the way you treat the honor and dignity of our country? That's
no, but ma'am, what the BJP is saying, again by way of sources, is that, you know, if there is material to show even an iota of...
Welcome back. New York City set a record yesterday for the worst air quality the city has ever seen. New York is one of the many cities in eastern US which is being affected by wildfire smoke from Canada. Here's one.
So many people spent Wednesday trying to describe what was in the air.
That building right there is 2 blocks away.
Perspectives shifted along with the landscapes.
If only you could smell how bad it is. It's unreal.
In these shades of orange and gray, there's more than meets the eye.
At 5 p.m., the air quality index hit 484. This is the highest level index of our knowledge since the 60s.
New York's air quality, for a time, the worst in the world, and more cities face growing health risks.
For years, we've been wearing masks indoors and taking them off outdoors, and now it's the reverse.
Almost 2,000 flights were delayed nationwide. New Jersey closed state offices.
It's either bad or really bad, depending on where you are.
The smoke comes from Canada, where 239 fires are out of control, forcing 20,000 people from their homes.
We're seeing vulnerable people at risk, outdoor events canceled, kids having to be kept inside at recess.
The White House has sent help across the border, but it can't stop what's coming from the other direction.
Smoke is something that is notoriously difficult to forecast.
Which could mean it's not the last we've seen of this.